Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So we're gonna have a fun and exciting episode for you guys today because I am playing the fully released version of Mighty Final Fight Forever. About 3 weeks ago, I did a video on the demo and said that if the final version of the game lived up to the quality I saw in the demo, we were in for an extremely fun time. And I'm here to say my expectations were not let down in any way, shape, or form. This is absolutely an amazing modern version of a retro classic, and honestly, it should be the blueprint for how to do these games moving forward. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we've got a Patreon link down below as well. And if you're not familiar with what Mighty Final Fight is, it was basically an NES version of Final Fight, and obviously it was completely changed up and reduced down from the Capcom CPS original as well as the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis ports. And it's one of those things, absolutely, this is an amazing game, and this version here is straight up just one of the best fan games I've ever played. And honestly, for me and my channel, that is high praise because I play an absolute metric crap ton of ROM hacks and fan games a year. What I really love about this version is that it keeps the spirit of the original 100% here while basically modernizing it. Because of course on paper, you can't see me, I'm doing air quotes right now, you could quote unquote improve the graphics here and make them modern, but that would really kind of betray what Mighty Final Fight was on the NES. Now of course you can add colors, you can improve the overall animations, but you still want to keep that kind of deformed, super chibi look going, and the developers and artists here have 100% done that. And you will see on some of the specials as well, you do get some sprite scaling and zooming, and that is absolutely also impressive. This is the type of thing that if Capcom releases for $15 today on an online platform, you would see major news sites giving it like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. That is how good I think this game is, and that's if Capcom made it. Now consider the fact that this was made by a group of fan developers, and you understand why I think this thing is just straight up a 10 out of 10 from start to finish. And that really was the thing about the demo that I played. I just wanted that same quality to persist all the way through this remake so that every bit of the game was as good as what I had first experienced. And I would say that the later levels are even better than the beginning of the game, so we're in an even better situation here. And as far as the gameplay is concerned, if you played one beat 'em up, you can understand exactly what's going on here. But I will say, and I say this in basically every beat 'em up video, hit detection is paramount in these titles. If you feel like you're lined up with your enemy and you're hitting them, everything is good. If you feel like you're lined up with your enemy and you're whiffing shots because the hit detection is off, you are not going to have a fun time whatsoever. But Mighty Final Fight Forever 100% nails the brief when it comes to that alignment, and if you're missing your opponent, that's just because you completely screwed up your own position. And I love how many sprites you can get on screen at once. Saving up these supers to basically stagger stun lock 4 or 5, even 6 enemies at once is going to be near to a screen clearing effect. So you definitely want to keep those supers in reserve for either boss fights or when you're getting absolutely overwhelmed with sprites on screen at once. But the amount of combos here, the amount of grapples and everything else, including the weapons, is just pure Final Fight from start to finish. And concerning, I just recently talked about the Christmas release of Final Fight Mega Drive, we are really getting spoiled as far as Final Fight games are concerned in 2025 and into 2026. And honestly, it's not like Capcom remembers this franchise exists much whatsoever, because we haven't had a new game since Streetwise, and honestly, talk about the worst possible ways to close out a franchise, Streetwise would definitely come up 10 out of 10 times. And I hope that maybe a project like this, if Capcom does see it somewhere, they think to themselves, hey, maybe we can actually have a new Final Fight game made by developers that aren't us or some other big studio. I would love to see a company like Capcom identify something like Mighty Final Fight Forever and say, maybe this team with a budget could actually make us a new 16-bit aesthetic Final Fight game that people would be stoked for, because we have so many new beat 'em ups these days. The actual genre is seeing about as much of a resurgence as I think it's ever going to see. So if there was ever a time to strike and for Capcom to release a new Final Fight game, 2026 would be the year to at least announce it. Let's go into the soundtrack sim because the music here is a straight up 10 out of 10, and I'll be right back with a lot more Mighty Final Fight because trust me, this is absolutely an amazing game. Now, if there is one and only one criticism I could level against Mighty Final Fight Revenge, and again, it would be a very small one, I wish the audio balance between the soundtrack and the sound effects for those strikes was slightly more rebalanced. I totally get it that music is amazing and it's going to be amazing throughout the game, and you know the developers and composers wanted you to hear it, but I wish the impacts had a little bit more volume. But short of that, honestly, there really isn't anything I can say here that I don't like. Even that small little smokestack in between those two windows, those details do not have to be there. They aren't technically adding anything to the background, but you can see that little bit of extra detail and how much the artists actually love making this game. And every single enemy here from Final Fight is going to be represented in that super chibi or deformed kind of actual stunted character, and that really is a fun look, and it definitely lives up to everything I remember liking about it back in the day here. And as we go into the interiors, I love all the colorways on display here. This red carpet, that little background with the table kind of feels like one of the big Chinese dim sum banquet halls we have in Chinatown in Chicago. Those reds, those tablecloths, this definitely feels like a place I've been, even though it's obviously taking place in a video game and not in Chinatown where I eat myself and I can barely stand up from the table. And it is one of those things, if you didn't know, Video Game Esoterica's favorite food is Chinese. I used to travel to Hong Kong all the time for work back in like the mid to late 2000s, and anything Szechuan, anything Chinese, I'm going to eat the ever-loving hell out of it. And I would say 10 out of 10 on the kitchen cleanliness here too. Although I were the developers, maybe I'd make a little bit of a stain. This one actually felt like a real kitchen. But all jokes aside about Chinese food, that's how much I enjoy this game. It just makes me remember fond memories, and it makes me remember just how much fun Final Fight is as far as an actual franchise is concerned. And even though I totally understand you don't need to be a registered company to make an incredible game, the fact that this is an in their spare time fan developed game makes it all the more impressive. Imagine what this team could do if you gave them like $500,000 and about 9 months to make a game, and that's all they had to do without having to focus on their normal day-to-day jobs. It really shows that fans have the ear and basically the heartbeat of what people want when it comes to some of their favorite genres, and sometimes they should totally be allowed to do it. It's kind of like Sonic Mania. That game absolutely straight up is amazing. It was basically made by a fan who was hired by Sega, and I love the light effects here as well in that row of bathrooms. And from the Final Fight Mega Drive video, you know I'm going to make the same joke. You know one of those bathrooms definitely has a hole in it with a piece of duct tape around the edges. But all bathroom jokes aside, again, this just adheres so well to the overall Final Fight vibe. There really isn't anything that I can point to and say, I wish they had done anything different. It has the perfect length, it has the perfect combat, the perfect visuals, and the perfect soundtrack. It's basically rounding it out to be the entire package. And I love the weapons in here as well, and you even get a tiny bit of parallax scrolling. Just enough to see it, but not so much that it becomes a distraction. Let's move into the second soundtrack sample, because again, the music in this absolutely just blew me away. But I'll be back to talk a little bit more about Final Fight and why this is, again, at least for me personally, one of the best fan games I've ever played in the history of talking about fan games on Video Game Esoterica channel. So yeah, again, that music just absolutely feels like a lost arcade classic that you just never got a chance to play in all the best ways possible. And I know I'm a few days late with this one, but trust me, I am more than busy in the new year. My wife and I are basically closing on the house the same day that you're going to be watching this, because unfortunately the house closing was slightly delayed because one of the sellers fell and broke their hip while moving out. So it's been an absolute mess of things to deal with when I thought everything was streamlined and I took care of everything in the first place. And honestly, I just wanted to spend a lot of time with Mighty Final Fight Forever, getting a good idea of what it was doing, kind of playing it through more than once, and just having a fun time. And big thanks to Andy D for helping with the captures as well, because like I said, when I mean I'm busy right now, the next 2.5 to 3 weeks are going to be an absolute sprint for me, because I am not going to stop making the daily videos. You're getting every bit of Video Game Esoterica content, while I basically unpack one house and pack up another at the same time. But take it from me, this game is just straight up amazing. Unfortunately, I'm not going to leave a link in the description description below because it is the full game download, and right now on YouTube that is a little bit dicey, but if you just Google the name of the game, you're going to be able to find it at the top result, and that is definitely something you want to take a look at. And because this game is amazing, the nice part is it's going to cost you all of $0 to play it. But we are done. Take it from me, play this game, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.